The rain didn't start all at once. It came in suggestions, a drop on the windshield here, a mist across the headlights there, as if the sky were testing whether we were paying attention. Welcome to Don't Sleep Tonight TV. If you're new here, if you enjoy slow, realistic, psychological horror stories that feel like they could actually happen, consider subscribing. By the time we crossed the county line into Hardin, the suggestions had become demands, and by the time we hit the 2-lane blacktop east of Elizabethtown, the demands had become a wall. I was driving. Anna was in the passenger seat with her bare feet on the dashboard, scrolling through her phone with one hand and eating gas station peanuts with the other. Behind us, wedged between a cooler and a duffel bag that smelled like campfire smoke, her brother Jonah was asleep with his mouth open, his head lolling against the window with every curve. We'd been on the road since 6 that morning. Louisville to the Daniel Boone, a long weekend of trail camping that Anna had planned for weeks. It was supposed to be the 3 of us reconnecting. That was her word. Reconnecting. As if Jonah and I had ever been properly connected in the first place. Jonah was 26, 4 years younger than Anna, and he'd been living with us for 2 months after what Anna called a rough patch, and what Jonah called a temporary situation, and what I called, privately, an indefinite occupation of our spare bedroom. He wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't a good guy. He was the kind of guy who left wet towels on the bathroom floor and then apologized so sincerely that you felt like the villain for mentioning it. He had a talent for making you feel unreasonable for having standards. "I can't see the road," I said. Anna looked up from her phone. The wipers were on their highest setting and losing badly. Water sheeted across the windshield in continuous, unbroken curtains. The headlights punched about 15 feet into the dark before the rain swallowed them whole. "Pull over?" she said. "Where?" "There's no shoulder. There's just trees and ditch." She leaned forward and squinted through the glass. "There was a sign a mile back. I think it said something about a church. I didn't see a sign." "You were focused on not dying. I was reading signs." Division of labor. She put her hand on my forearm. Her fingers were warm and slightly greasy from the peanuts. "Next turnoff, take it. We'll wait it out." I found the turnoff 3 minutes later. A gravel path that branched left off the blacktop and climbed a shallow rise. My headlights caught a wooden post with a reflective arrow and the words, "Grace Fellowship," painted in white block letters that the weather had mostly eaten. We followed the path for maybe a quarter mile through overhanging trees whose branches scraped the roof of the car like fingernails on a casket lid, which is something I thought at the time and wish I hadn't. The building appeared all at once when the trees opened into a clearing. It was a church, or it had been. Single story, white clapboard, a small steeple. The parking lot was gravel and weeds. There were no other cars. One floodlight mounted on a pole near the entrance cast a cone of yellow light that the rain turned into a column of static. The building looked like it had been closed for years, but not quite long enough to fall apart. It was in that in-between state where human structures look like they're holding their breath. "This works," Anna said. "This doesn't work. This is a closed church in the middle of nowhere in a rainstorm." "Exactly. Shelter in a storm. What more do you want?" "A Holiday Inn. We're 40 minutes from the nearest town, the road is a river, and I have to pee. We're stopping." She was already unbuckling her seatbelt. I put the car in park and killed the engine but left the headlights on. The rain hammered the roof so hard that the silence of the dead engine was immediately replaced by something louder. "Jonah." Anna reached back and shook her brother's knee. "Wake up. We're stopping." He came awake the way he always did, Instantly, completely, as if he hadn't really been asleep at all. "Where are we?" "Church. Storm's too bad to drive." Jonah sat up and looked through the window. The floodlight caught his face in yellow. He had Anna's same dark eyes, but none of her ease. His eyes always looked like they were running calculations. "Door's probably locked," he said. "Then we sit in the car," I said. "Or we check," Anna said, and she opened her door and was out in the rain before I could object. I followed. Jonah followed me. By the time we reached the small covered porch at the front entrance, we were soaked through. Anna tried the door, a heavy wooden thing with a black iron handle, and it opened inward with a sound like a slow exhale. "See?" she said. "The fact that it's unlocked is not reassuring." "It's a church, Caleb. They leave them open." She stepped inside. I stood on the porch for a moment, rain hammering the overhang above me, and I looked back at the car sitting in the clearing with its headlights still on, two bright eyes staring at nothing. Jonah was beside me. He hadn't said anything else. He was looking at the door frame. Specifically, he was looking at the inside edge of the door frame, where I now noticed a series of marks. Small, vertical scratches in the wood, grouped in sets of 5 like tally marks. They covered the full height of the frame, from knee level to about 6 inches above my head. "That's a lot of counting," Jonah said quietly. "Could be anything. Growth chart. Kids." "That's not how you mark a kid's height." He was right. These weren't the scattered, labeled lines you'd see in a family home. They were uniform, deliberate, and they continued around the inside of the frame onto the wall, where the paint was darker and they became harder to see. Hundreds of marks, maybe thousands. "Come on," Anna called from inside. "It's dry, it's fine, and I found a light switch." We went in. The interior was one large room. A nave, I suppose, though I'm not a church person. 12 rows of wooden pews, 6 on each side of a center aisle. A raised platform at the far end with a simple wooden lectern. No altar, no decorations, no hymnals in the pew backs. The walls were white plaster. The floor was hardwood, dark with age. 2 windows on each side, tall and narrow, covered with heavy curtains that might once have been maroon, but had faded to the color of old blood. The ceiling was high, open-beamed, and the single overhead light, a fluorescent tube strip mounted above the center aisle, filled the room with a flat, clinical brightness that made the shadows in the corners look deliberate. At the far end of the nave, behind the platform, there was a single door. It was closed. "Not bad," Anna said. She was already walking the aisle, running her hand along the pew backs. "Clean, too. Someone still takes care of this place." She was right about that. There was no dust on the pews. The floor had been swept recently. The air smelled faintly of pine sol and something else, something older, like the ghost of candle smoke. I went back to the car and killed the headlights, grabbed our emergency bag from the trunk, a backpack Anna always kept packed, with a flashlight, a first aid kit, a Mylar blanket, protein bars, and a battery pack for our phones. When I got back inside, Jonah was sitting in the last pew near the door, and Anna was near the front of the room, looking at the closed door behind the lectern. "Probably a storage room," she said, "or a little office. These small churches usually have one back room." "Leave it," I said. "We're just waiting out the storm." "I'm not going to open it. I'm just saying." She came back down the aisle and sat across from Jonah. I sat next to her. For a few minutes, we just listened to the storm. The rain was tremendous on the roof, a constant roaring static that made the church feel like the inside of a drum. Every few seconds, wind gusted hard enough to make the clapboard walls creak. The fluorescent light above us hummed at a frequency that lived right at the edge of perception. "How long do you think?" Jonah asked. I checked my phone. No signal, which wasn't surprising out here. Radar showed the cell passing east, but it's a big system. Could be an hour, could be 3. "Then we wait," Anna said. She pulled her legs up onto the pew and leaned against me. "Worst places to be stuck." I put my arm around her. Her hair was wet and cold against my neck. Jonah stretched out across his pew on the opposite side of the aisle and put his arm over his eyes. The rain roared. The light hummed. Then something knocked. It came from the door at the back of the nave, the one behind the lectern. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, at a conversational volume. Not loud, not timid. The kind of knock you'd use on a friend's door when you know they're home. All 3 of us went still. "That was from inside," Anna said. She'd sat up and was looking down the aisle at the closed door. "It was the storm," I said. Wind. Branch hitting the back wall." "That wasn't a branch hitting a wall, Caleb. That was knocking." 3 knocks. Jonah had taken his arm off his eyes and was sitting up. He didn't say anything. He was looking at the door. We waited. The rain hammered. The light hummed. 30 seconds passed. A minute. "See?" I said. "Storm." And then it knocked again. 3 knocks. Same rhythm. Same volume. Same door. But this time, there was a pause after the second knock. A pause exactly long enough to feel intentional, before the third one landed. Anna stood up. "Sit down," I said. "Someone could be stuck in there." "Someone is not stuck in there. The building was empty when we walked in." "Was it? Did we check?" "We walked in the front door and sat down. We didn't check the back room." She had a point, and I hated that she had a point. In my desire to not be in this church at all, I'd made the beginner's mistake of not clearing the space. Anna was already moving down the aisle. I went after her. "Anna, wait." She stopped at the platform and turned to me. "If someone's in there, a homeless person, a teenager, anyone, they're trapped in a back room while 3 strangers sit in their space. The decent thing to do is open the door. The decent thing to do when something knocks from inside a closed room in an empty building is to not open the door." "Hello?" Anna called out toward the door. Her voice was steady and clear. "Is someone in there? We're just sheltering from the storm. We don't mean to intrude." Silence. Rain. Fluorescent hum. "See? Nothing." I said it, and I almost believed it. And then the door, the one behind the lectern, the one that was 3 feet from where Anna was standing, shook once in its frame. Not a knock, not a bang, a shudder. As if something on the other side had leaned its full weight against it and then pulled back. Anna flinched. She took a step back into me. I caught her by the shoulders. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay." We went back to the pews. For a while, nothing happened. We sat in the pews and we did what people do when they're frightened, but not yet ready to admit it. We explained. We rationalized. We built a story that we could live with. The church was old. Old buildings settle. The storm was producing massive pressure differentials. Wind could make a door jump in its frame. Animals got into abandoned buildings all the time. A raccoon, a possum, something sheltering from the storm, just like us. "A raccoon that knocks in patterns," Jonah said. He'd moved to our side of the aisle and was sitting in the pew in front of us, turned sideways with his back against the armrest. "Raccoons are smart," Anna said, but her voice had lost its confidence. "Raccoons don't knock 3 times, pause, and then lean on a door." "Jonah," I said. not helping. I'm not trying to help. I'm trying to be accurate. This was the thing about Jonah. He had no instinct for social lubrication. He said what he observed, and he observed a lot, and sometimes what he observed was the thing everybody else was working hard to ignore. In normal life, it made him exhausting. Right now, it made him dangerous. Here's what we do, I said. We stay in this room. We don't open that door. We wait for the storm to break and we drive to the nearest town and we find a motel, and tomorrow morning, this is a funny story we tell over breakfast. Agreed, Anna said. Jonah said nothing. 20 minutes passed. Anna and I talked about the camping trip, about the trail we'd planned, about small things. We were filling the silence the way you fill sandbags before a flood. Jonah sat quietly and watched the door at the back of the nave. I was aware of his watching even when I wasn't looking at him. It had a weight to it. Then the fluorescent light flickered. Not the dramatic flicker of a horror movie, not a strobe, not a blackout. It dimmed, just barely for half a second, and then returned to full brightness. The kind of fluctuation you'd attribute to the storm affecting the power supply. Except that when the light dimmed, Jonah said, "It knocked again." "I didn't hear anything," I said. "When the light went down, under the sound of the rain, 3 knocks. Anna looked at me. I looked at Jonah. He was not performing. He was not trying to scare us. His face had the flat, focused expression of someone reporting what they'd witnessed. "I didn't hear it," I repeated. "You were talking." He was right. I had been talking. I'd been talking specifically because I didn't want to hear anything. "Okay," I said. "New rule. We stay quiet for 2 minutes. We listen. If we all hear something, we deal with it. If we don't, we move on." Anna nodded. Jonah turned back toward the door. We sat in silence. The rain was a roar. The wind gusted and the walls creaked. The fluorescent tube hummed its thin, constant note. 1 minute passed. 90 seconds. I was about to call it when the knock came, and this time we all heard it. This time it didn't come from the door at the back of the nave. It came from beneath the floor. 3 knocks. Directly below us. Below the pew where Anna and I were sitting. The wood vibrated under my feet. Anna grabbed my hand. Her grip was immediate and crushing. "That's under us," she whispered. "There's no basement," I said, because I needed there to be no basement. "These old churches are built on slab or piers. There's nothing under us." "Caleb." Her grip tightened. I felt it in the wood. I had felt it too. Through the soles of my shoes. A vibration. 3 distinct impacts from below, delivered with the same measured rhythm, the same conversational weight. As if something directly beneath the floorboards had raised a fist and asked to be let in. Jonah stood up. He walked to the center aisle, knelt down, and put his ear to the floor. "Jonah, don't," Anna said. He held up one hand. He listened. We watched. The rain raged. The light hummed. Jonah's face was inches from the dark hardwood. 10 seconds. 20. Then he stood up, slowly, and came back to the pew. "There's a space under the floor," he said. I could hear the echo. Not a full basement, more like a crawl space. 18 inches, maybe 2 feet. And I heard breathing. Nobody said anything. Anna's nails were cutting into my palm. I didn't pull away. "It wasn't wind," Jonah said. "Wind doesn't have a rhythm like that. Inhale, exhale, pause, inhale, exhale, pause. Something is under this building and it's breathing." "We're leaving," I said. I stood up. Anna stood up with me. Jonah didn't move. Jonah, we're going. Into that? He pointed at the windows. Beyond the faded curtains, lightning flashed, and for a moment the rain on the glass looked like television static. That road is flooded by now. Gravel path, low ground, clay soil. You try to drive out and we end up in a ditch. Then we're outside, in a storm, at night, in the middle of nowhere, with no cell signal and no shelter. At least in here we have walls. The walls are the problem. No. What's under the walls is the problem. And if it's been under there this whole time, and all it's done is knock, then maybe walls are exactly what's working. I hated that he was right. I hated it with the kind of visceral, full-body rejection that I usually reserved for moments when I knew I'd already lost an argument. The car was 100 feet away across open ground in a biblical rainstorm. Even if the road wasn't flooded, and Jonah was probably right that it was. The idea of sitting in a car, in the dark, in a storm, in this clearing, knowing something was under the church, was worse than sitting in the church itself. At least the church had light. At least the church had walls. Fine, I said. We stay. But we stay near the door, and the second this storm breaks, we run. We moved to the front pew, the one closest to the entrance. We sat together, all three on the same bench. Anna in the middle, me on the aisle, Jonah by the wall. The door to the outside was 10 feet behind us. The door to the back room was 40 feet ahead at the far end of the nave. We sat, we waited. The storm screamed, and beneath us, faintly, like a heartbeat in the floor, something knocked. An hour passed. I know because I watched the clock on my phone, which still had no signal but still kept time. In that hour, the knocking came 4 more times. The first was under the floor again, near the back of the nave. We all heard it, but didn't speak. 3 knocks. The second came from the left wall, about halfway down, at approximately the height of our heads if we'd been sitting in the middle pews. 3 knocks. Same rhythm. The third came from the ceiling, directly above the lectern, loud enough that dust shook loose from the beams and drifted through the fluorescent light like gray snow. 3 knocks. The fourth came from inside the pew behind us, inside the wood itself, as if something had crawled into the bench and was knocking on it from the inside, asking to come out through a surface that had no opening. After the fourth sequence, Anna said, "It's getting closer." She was right. The geography of the knocking was contracting. It had started at the far end of the room, then the floor, then the walls, then the ceiling. Now the pew directly behind where we sat. The pattern was unmistakable and unhurried. Whatever was doing this was not in a rush. It was methodical. It was mapping the distance between itself and us, and it was closing that distance 3 knocks at a time. "What happens when it reaches us?" Jonah asked. He asked it the way someone asks about the weather. "What happens when the cold front arrives?" A forecasting question. "It doesn't reach us," I said. "We leave before it reaches us." "And go where?" "The car. I'll drive slow. We don't need to go far. Just out of this clearing, back to the main road, and we keep going until we find a gas station or a house or anything. In a storm that's knocked out cell towers. Jonah, I swear to God." "Stop," Anna said, not loud, not sharp. The word came out exhausted, and that was worse. She put her hand on my knee and her other hand on Jonah's arm. "Stop fighting. That's what it wants." We both looked at her. "How do you know what it wants?" I asked. "I don't. I just know that every time we argue, the knocking gets closer, and every time we're quiet and calm, it stays where it is. Think about it. Go back through the sequence. The first knocks came when I was calling out to it, engaging it. Then it was quiet when we were quiet. Then Jonah said what he said about hearing breathing, and we started arguing about leaving, and it moved to the walls, the ceiling, the pew. It's not following a path. It's following us, our noise, our tension. I wanted to dismiss this. I wanted it to be wrong. But I ran through the timeline in my head, and I couldn't punch a hole in it. Okay, I said. Then we stay calm. We stay quiet. We don't feed it. For 15 minutes, we were silent. No knocking came. The rain began to lessen, still heavy, but the apocalyptic roar had dropped to a steady, hard rain that was survivable. I began to feel the first tentative thread of hope. Then Jonah spoke, not to us, not in any voice I recognized. I want to open the door. He was looking at the door at the back of the nave, the one behind the lectern. He was leaned forward in the pew with his forearms on his knees and his eyes fixed on it with an expression I can only describe as recognition, like he was seeing someone he knew. No, Anna said. There's someone in there. There is no one in there, Jonah. There is. I can hear them. Can't you hear them? I listened. Rain. Wind. Hum. Nothing else. I don't hear anything, I said. A voice. It's been talking for the last few minutes, quiet but clear. It knows my name. The hair on my arms rose so fast it hurt. Anna had gone pale. She reached out and took her brother's hand. Jonah, look at me. He didn't look at her. He was staring at the door. Jonah, look at me right now. Slowly, as if it required effort, he turned his head. His eyes were the same. He was lucid. He was present. That was almost worse. There was no glassy disorientation, no sign that he was dissociating or hallucinating. He looked like a man reporting a fact. It's not threatening, he said. It's asking for help. It says it's been in there a long time. It says it got lost. It knows things, Anna. It knew about Dad's orchard, the one in Muhlenberg County, the one with the crab apples. How would it know that? Anna flinched. I saw her flinch, and I saw something in her face I'd never seen before. Not fear exactly, but a kind of terrible alertness, like a deer that has heard the safety click off. What orchard? I asked. It's nothing, Anna said. It's not nothing. Your brother is hearing voices and they're referencing your childhood. What orchard? Anna's jaw worked. She was deciding. Then, when Jonah and I were kids, our dad had a friend who owned a property in Muhlenberg County. We'd go there in the fall. There were crab apple trees along the fence line, and Jonah used to throw them at the barn. He was 5, maybe 6. He doesn't even remember it. I remember it now, Jonah said, because it told me. Jonah, nothing told you anything. You're hearing the storm and you're filling in patterns because you're scared. That's what fear does. It makes noise into language. You always do this, he said, and his voice shifted, harder, flatter. You always explain me away. I tell you what I'm experiencing and you hand me a reason why I'm wrong. Just like you did when I told you about the job. Just like you did when I told you about Rachel. You manage me, Anna. You manage me because it's easier than believing me. Anna's face crumpled and then hardened. That's not fair. That's not me saying it. That's what the voice said. Something knocked. Loud. Not 3 knocks. 1. One massive impact against the inside of the back door that was so forceful I saw the door visibly burrow outward toward us. The wood flexed. The frame dust jumped. And then nothing. We were all standing. We'd all stood at the same instant without deciding to. The air in the room had changed. Not temperature, not smell, but something. A density. as if the room had gotten smaller without any wall moving. "We're leaving," I said. "Right now. Storm or no storm." I grabbed the emergency bag. Anna grabbed Jonah's arm. We turned toward the entrance. The entrance door was closed. I'd left it propped open with a hymnal when we came in. I remembered doing it. I remembered the specific, deliberate thought, leave ourselves an out. I'd wedged a water-swollen hymnal between the door and the frame so we'd have a clear exit. The door was closed. The hymnal was on the floor, 3 feet from the doorway, lying on its spine with its pages fanned open, as if it hadn't been pushed but placed. I went to the door and pulled the handle. It opened. The rain hit my face and the cold air rushed in, and the gravel lot was right there, and the car was right there, and the trees beyond were thrashing in the wind, but the storm was definitely lighter now. "Go," I said. "Get in the car. I'll drive." Anna pulled Jonah toward the door. He came, but he was looking back over his shoulder. He was looking at the door at the far end of the nave. "It's going to be alone again," he said. "Move," I said. We were on the porch. We were in the rain. Anna and Jonah were ahead of me, moving toward the car. I was 2 steps behind them, pulling the church door closed out of some absurd reflex of politeness, and as the door swung shut, from inside the church, I heard a voice. Not a knock, a voice. Clear, unobstructed, human-sounding, but wrong in a way I couldn't identify. It said, "You'll come back." I slammed the door and ran for the car. I drove too fast for the conditions, and I didn't care. The gravel path was streaming with runoff, and the tires broke loose on every curve, and I corrected and kept going. We hit the blacktop, and I turned east, away from the church, toward anything. The rain was heavy but navigable. The windshield wipers kept up. The headlights cut the dark. Nobody spoke for 5 miles. Anna was in the passenger seat with her arms wrapped around herself, staring straight ahead. Jonah was in the back, and I could see him in the rearview mirror, sitting upright, awake, his face empty. "What did it say to you?" I asked. I was looking at Jonah in the mirror. The voice, besides the orchard. "What else did it say?" "Caleb," Anna warned. "No, I need to know. If something communicated with him, I need to know what it said, because that determines what we do next." Jonah met my eyes in the mirror. It said it's been waiting for a long time. It said people come to the church, but they never stay long enough. It said it needs someone to open the door. "Which door? The back room door?" "I don't think so. I think the back room door is just a symbol, a representation. I think the door it means is something else, something we carry. That doesn't make sense." "I know." Anna turned in her seat. "Are you still hearing it?" Jonah was quiet then. "Yes." A silence that had texture, that had weight. "It's quieter," he said. "Like someone talking in another room. But it's still there." "Since when? Since we left the church?" "Since I put my ear to the floor." I gripped the steering wheel. My knuckles were white, and I could feel my pulse in my palms. Anna was looking at me, and I was looking at the road, and in the mirror I was looking at Jonah, and the 3 of us formed a triangle of fear and love and blame that was almost too heavy to hold. "We find a motel," I said. "We get a room. We sleep. In the morning, we drive home." "What about the camping trip?" Jonah asked, and the question was so absurdly normal that it cracked something open in Anna. She laughed, a short, hard laugh that was closer to a sob. "The camping trip is canceled, Jonah." "I know. I just wanted to say something normal." And that was the most honest thing he'd said all night. We drove. The storm began to break apart, the rain thinning, the wind dropping, the sky ahead showing patches of charcoal gray, that were lighter than the black behind us. I found a state road and followed it south. After 20 minutes, we passed a gas station, closed, a farm supply store, closed, and then, mercifully, a motel. The Shady Rest Motor Lodge, a single-story L-shaped building with a gravel lot and a neon vacancy sign that buzzed and flickered in the residual rain. There was one other car in the lot, an old pickup with a tarp over the bed. I went into the office. A woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a chain and a crossword puzzle book open on the counter checked us in without curiosity. $38 a night. Room 7. She handed me a key, an actual metal key on a diamond-shaped plastic fob, and told me checkout was at 11. Room 7 was exactly what you'd expect. 2 full beds, a nightstand between them, a dresser with a television on top, a bathroom with a shower stall and thin towels. The carpet was brown. The bedspreads were floral. There was a painting of a covered bridge above one bed and a painting of a barn above the other. The room smelled like industrial cleaner and stale cigarette smoke that no amount of industrial cleaner would ever fully conquer. It was the most beautiful room I'd ever seen. Anna went into the bathroom and closed the door. I heard the shower start. Jonah sat on the edge of one bed and looked at his hands. "Hey," I said. He looked up. "Are you still hearing it?" A pause. A long one. "No," he said. "It stopped about 10 minutes ago, on the road. It was there, and then it was just the rain." "Good." "Caleb." He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen from him. Stripped of performance, stripped of the easy charm and the deflective humor and the cultivated vagueness. He looked like a man who had been touched by something and could still feel the handprint. I wasn't making it up. "I know. You don't believe me." "I heard the knocking, Jonah. I felt it in the floor. I heard the voice when we left. I believe something happened. I just don't understand it. The voice didn't want to hurt us. It was lonely. It was genuinely, profoundly lonely. You can fake a lot of things, but you can't fake that. Whatever is in that church, in that building, under that building, it's been alone in the dark for a very long time, and it has been asking everyone who walks through that door for one thing." "What?" "Company." I didn't know what to say to that. I sat on the other bed and rubbed my face with both hands. The shower was still running. The fluorescent light in the bathroom cast a blade of white across the carpet through the gap under the door. "We should sleep," I said. We slept. Or Anna and I slept. I turned off the light. The room went dark except for the thin blue glow of the TV standby light. For a few seconds there was nothing. Then, from the wall behind Jonah's bed, a soft sound. Not a knock, not quite, more like something testing the surface. A single, dull pressure. Jonah sat up immediately. "You heard that?" he said. I stared at the wall. "Yeah." Silence, and then nothing else. Jonah lay back down. "It followed," he said. I didn't answer, because I knew. I woke at 3:47 a.m. to the sound of the motel room door closing. Jonah's bed was empty. I woke Anna. She was disoriented for 5 seconds, and then she was terrified, and then she was on her feet. "He took the car keys," I said. I'd checked the nightstand, my jacket pockets, the dresser. The keys were gone. Through the window, the parking space where our car had been was empty. Rain still fell, but lightly now, an afterthought. "He's going back," Anna said. It wasn't a question. "We don't know that." "Yes, we do. He's going back to the church. He's going to open the door." She was right. I knew she was right because in my chest there was a heaviness that wasn't surprise but confirmation, the weight of something you'd been expecting to happen but had talked yourself out of fearing. "I'll get us a ride," the woman at the front desk, the pickup truck. I went to the office. The woman was asleep in a chair behind the counter. I knocked on the glass and she startled awake and looked at me with an irritation that quickly became concern when she saw my face. "I need to borrow your truck," I said. "You need to what?" "My brother-in-law took our car. He's not well. He went back toward a church off the blacktop east of here. Grace Fellowship, I need your truck." Her face changed. The irritation vanished. Just something else replaced it. Something I didn't expect. Recognition. Not of me. Of the name. "Grace Fellowship," she repeated. "You know it?" "Honey, everybody knows it. That place has been closed for 12 years, since the incident." "What incident?" She studied me. She was making a calculation. Then she opened a drawer and took out a set of keys and put them on the counter. "Take the truck. Bring it back with a full tank." "What incident? What happened at that church?" "You bring your brother home first, then I'll tell you whatever you want to know." I didn't push. I grabbed the keys and ran. Anna was already outside room 7, dressed, shoes on, ready. We got in the truck, a heavy, ancient Chevy that smelled like dog and diesel, and I pulled out of the lot and drove east. The rain had nearly stopped. The roads were streaming but passable. I found the blacktop and pushed the truck hard, watching for the turnoff. Anna was beside me, leaning forward, scanning the road. "There," she said. "The gravel path. The wooden post with the reflective arrow. Grace Fellowship." We turned and climbed the rise, and the trees scraped the truck's roof, and then the clearing opened and there was our car, parked crookedly in the gravel lot with the driver's door hanging open. The floodlight on the pole still burned, casting its cone of yellow. Inside the car, nothing. Engine off. Keys in the ignition. Jonah's phone on the passenger seat. The church door was open. Not ajar, not slightly. Open, wide, all the way, flush against the interior wall, as if inviting. "Jonah!" Anna shouted from the porch. Her voice echoed into the church and came back flat, without the natural reverberation the space should have produced. The sound went in and didn't come out right. I took the flashlight from the emergency bag and stepped inside. Anna was right behind me. The fluorescent light was off. The room was dark except for our flashlight, which cut a hard white beam through air that had become visibly thick. Not fog exactly, but something. A density, like humidity made tangible. The beam caught dust and particles that swirled in patterns too regular to be random. Everything looked the same. Pews in rows, lectern on the platform, curtained windows. But something was different, and it took me a moment to identify it. The door at the back of the nave was open. Beyond it, there was a darkness that the flashlight couldn't penetrate. I aimed the beam directly at the doorway, and the light entered the space and simply stopped, as if the dark in that room was a solid thing, a substance, a wall of black that swallowed photons at the threshold. "Jonah?" Anna called again, softer this time. The church ate the sound. From the open doorway at the back of the nave, we heard him. "I'm in here." His voice was calm, conversational. The same tone you'd use if someone called your name from the next room and you were telling them where to find you. Anna started down the aisle. I grabbed her arm. "Don't?" "That's my brother. Something is wrong. I know something is wrong. That's why I'm going to get him." She pulled free. She was stronger than I expected, or I was weaker. She moved down the aisle between the pews, toward the platform, toward the open door and the dark that lived behind it. "Jonah, come out of there," she called, and I can't. "What do you mean you can't?" "I mean I can't. The door only goes one way. You can come in, but you can't go back out. I already tried." Anna stopped. She was at the base of the platform, 5 feet from the open door. I was behind her, the flashlight beam cutting between us and falling into the dark beyond the doorway, where it died. "Jonah, listen to me." Step toward my voice. "I'm trying. Anna, I'm telling you. There's no floor near the door anymore. It's just a step down. I can feel the edge with my foot, but I can't see the bottom." I came up beside Anna. I aimed the flashlight into the doorway. Nothing. The light entered and vanished. I could have been pointing it into deep space. "Jonah, I'm pointing a flashlight directly into the room. Can you see it?" "No, it's completely dark in here, but it's warm. And big. Bigger than it should be. I can hear my echo when I talk. This room is not the room behind a church. This room is something else." Something knocked. From inside the dark room. From deep inside it, farther back than the physical dimensions of the building could possibly allow. 3 knocks, echoing, vast, as if delivered against a wall a quarter-mile away in a space the size of a cathedral. And then, closer, much closer from just inside the doorway, 3 answering knocks. 2 sets, one distant, one near. A call and response. Anna grabbed the edge of the door frame with both hands and leaned into the dark. "Jonah, I'm right here. I'm maybe 10 feet from you. I can hear you perfectly. But I can't see anything and I can't move forward because there's nothing to step on." "Then sit down. Don't move. I'm coming to get you." "Don't," Jonah said, and his voice was sharp now, frightened for the first time. "Don't come in here. That's what it wants. It told me. The door's been waiting for someone to open it, but one person isn't enough. It needs someone to come in, and it needs someone else to close the door from outside." "Why?" I asked. "Because that's how it gets out. When the door closes with someone inside, it opens somewhere else, with something else on the other side." I stepped back. I pulled Anna back. She resisted. "We are not leaving him," she said. "We are not going in." "Then what?" She turned on me. Her face was wet. I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. "What's your plan, Caleb? Walk away? Drive to town? Call the police and tell them there's a magic door in a church that swallowed my brother? He is in there. He is alive. He is talking to us. And you want to leave. I want us both to be alive. That is not enough." And there it was. The line that defined us. The line that had always defined us. I was a man who survived. Anna was a woman who saved. And until this moment, those had been the same thing. "There has to be a way," she said. "There has to be a way that doesn't involve going in or closing the door." From the dark, there is. Not Jonah's voice. The other voice. The one I'd heard when we left the church. The one that had said, "You'll come back." It came from deep inside the room, from the same distance as the first set of knocks, and it was calm and clear and patient, and it was nothing like a human voice except that it used human words. "There is a way," it said. "Ask." For a moment, everything stopped. No knocking, no movement. Just the storm outside. The church felt ordinary again. Too ordinary. I could hear rain hitting the roof, wind moving through trees. Even the air felt lighter. Jonah exhaled. Maybe it's done. Then something knocked, not from the floor, not from the walls, from inside the pew beside him. Anna and I stood at the threshold of the open door. The darkness beyond was absolute and impenetrable. Somewhere inside, Jonah was alive and afraid. Somewhere deeper, something else was alive and not afraid at all. "What do you want?" I asked. I said it to the dark. My voice was steady, which surprised me. Fear has stages, and I'd apparently passed through the paralysis stage and entered the numb functionality stage, which felt like calmness but was actually its opposite. The voice answered. It took its time. The pause felt intentional, as if it was choosing from among many possible answers and selecting the one most likely to keep us standing at the threshold. I want... The voice stopped. Not like it had finished, like it had lost its place. I want the door to remain open. The door is open, I said. Not this one. A pause. Something shifted in the dark. Not sound, not movement, but pressure, like a thought passing too close. This is a mouth, it said. You were standing in the teeth. Anna tightened her grip on my arm. Then what do you want? She asked. Behind the mouth, it said. The other side of the hinge. The place where it stays open even when you are gone. You're not making sense, I said. I was a person, it replied softly. I remember sense. This is what is left when sense wears through. The floor beneath the doorway gave a faint, wet creak. Your brother is standing on me, the voice said. Jonah froze. What? The last part of me that still holds shape, it continued. If I loosen, he will have ground. If I loosen... The voice faltered. I go. Go where? Anna whispered. A long silence. Then, away from words. Silence. The rain had stopped entirely. I could hear it. The absence of rain. The world outside the church had gone quiet, as if even the weather was listening. You're asking us to choose, I said. I'm asking you to understand the cost. I did not pull him. I called. He came. Loneliness knows its own name when it hears it. Your brother heard me because he was already near the door. I know that kind of nearness. I was once like him. The kind that opens. The kind that chooses a voice in the dark because the silence is worse. Anna was crying. Silently, without sound, the tears running down her face and off her jaw and landing on the wooden floor of the church, where they made no noise at all. Let him go, she said. If I do, I am nothing. You're already nothing. You said it yourself. You're tension in a surface. You're a knock. You're not alive. I am aware. Is that not enough? And that question, delivered in that inhuman voice from that impossible darkness, cracked something in the room. In me. In Anna. Maybe in the building itself. Because it was the question. The only question that mattered. Is awareness enough? Is the bare, stripped-down experience of existing, without a body, without a name, without light or warmth or touch, enough to warrant continuation? Yes, Jonah said from the dark. Yes. It's enough. Jonah. No, listen to me. I've been in dark rooms. Not like this, but dark. After Rachel, after the job, after everything. I've been in rooms where the walls were closing and the floor was gone, and all I had was the knowledge that I was still there. And that was enough. That's always been enough. This is different. It's not. It's the same thing with different architecture. 3 knocks. From directly beneath the doorway. From the membrane, the surface, the last of whatever this thing was. 3 knocks. Gentle, almost tender. And I understood for the first time that the knocking had never been aggression. It had been the only language left to something that had lost all others. A fist against a surface is the most primitive form of communication. I am here. I am here. I am here. There's another option, I said. Everyone went quiet. Anna looked at me. The dark waited. The woman at the motel, She knows this church. She knows its history. She said, since the incident. There's information we don't have. Before we make a choice that can't be undone, I want to know what happened here. I want to know what we're actually dealing with. That changes nothing, the voice said. Maybe not. But I'm not letting my brother-in-law die in a dark room, and I'm not condemning whatever you are to oblivion without understanding the full picture. You've waited 12 years. You can wait until morning. A pause. A long one. I felt the floor shift under my feet. Not a knock, not a vibration, but a settling as if the entire building had exhaled. I can wait, the voice said. But the door stays open. The door stays open. And someone stays in the building. If the building is empty, the door closes on its own. That's the rule. That's always been the rule. I looked at Anna. She looked at me. And in that look was every conversation we'd ever had about her brother, about patience and obligation and the limits of what you owe the people you love, and all of it collapsed into a single understanding that passed between us without words. I'll stay, I said. No, Anna said. One of us has to. And you need to go find that woman and get the full story. You're better with people than I am. You'll get more out of her. I'm not leaving you in a haunted church. It's not haunted. It's occupied. There's a difference. And I'll be fine. I'll sit in the front pew and I won't go near the door, and I'll wait for you to come back. Anna grabbed my face with both hands. Her palms were cold, and her eyes were enormous and dark and filled with something that was bigger than fear. If anything happens, I'll be here. Jonah will be in there. You'll come back and we'll figure this out. Together. She kissed me. Hard, fast, fierce. Then she took the truck keys from my pocket, turned, and walked out of the church. I listened to the truck start. I listened to it pull away down the gravel path. I listened until the engine sound was swallowed by distance, and all that remained was silence. I was alone in the church. No, that's not right. I was the only living human in the church, but I was not alone. I sat in the front pew with the flashlight in my lap. The light flickered. Not the bulb, my flashlight. The beam narrowed like something was pressing in from the sides. For a second, it looked less like light and more like a tunnel. Then it snapped back to normal. Did you see that? I said. See what? Jonah asked. Nothing. But I didn't believe that. Something had just tested the distance between us. I left the overhead light alone. The flashlight was enough. Its beam was a solid, dependable thing, and I aimed it at the floor in front of me so it reflected upward and filled the nave with a soft, indirect glow. Caleb? Jonah's voice from the dark room. I'm here. Is Anna gone? She went to get answers. Good. She's good at that. A pause. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For being the reason you're sitting in a church at 4 a.m, waiting for your girlfriend to interrogate a motel clerk about demonic architecture? I almost laughed. You're not the reason. I'm literally the reason. You're the reason we're in this specific situation, but the reason I'm sitting here is because this is what you do for family. I'm not your family. I'm your girlfriend's brother who sleeps in your spare room and uses your shampoo. Jonah, shut up. He shut up. But I could tell he was smiling. I could hear it in the quality of the silence. For a while, nothing happened. I sat. The church was still. The dark room was dark. The air was cool, but not cold. I became aware of something else, not a sound, a distance. The space between me and Jonah didn't feel the same anymore. It felt occupied. I didn't look, because I knew. If I did, something would be there that hadn't been a second ago. A building at rest is never truly quiet. It speaks in the language of materials responding to temperature and humidity and the slow, patient work of gravity. "Can I ask you something?" I said to the dark. The voice answered, "Yes." "Were you a person?" "I was." "What happened?" "I came here during a storm, like you." The simplicity of it hit me like a physical blow. Not a ritual, not a curse, not an ancient evil. A person, caught in a storm, who walked into a church and found a door and opened it and went through and didn't come back. When? I don't remember the year. I remember the rain. I remember being cold. I remember the door was locked and I broke the window to get in. I remember the back room was warm. I remember stepping inside and the floor being soft, like standing on a mattress. I remember the door closing behind me. And then I was here. In the dark. In the deep. That's what I call it. There's a place behind the walls of buildings where awareness can fall if the architecture is broken in the right way. This church was built on a crack, not in the earth, in something else. In the surface between here and the deep. And the deep is not empty. The deep is full of listening. Listening for what? For knocking. For the sound of someone trying to get in. Or trying to get out. There is no difference from the deep. I thought about this. I thought about the tally marks on the door frame. "The marks on the front door," I said. "The scratches. Were those yours?" "Some. Not all. Others have fallen into the deep over the years. Some from this church, some from other cracks, other buildings, other broken places. We knock. It's the only thing that reaches through the surface. 3 knocks. Because 3 is a pattern. 2 could be coincidence. 1 could be nothing. But 3 is someone counting. 3 is proof of mind. How many of you are there?" "I don't know. Fewer than there were. The deep erodes. Awareness thins. I am the last one still able to speak, and I can only speak when the door is open and someone is listening. And if we close the door, I stop, not die. You cannot die in the deep." A knock cut through the room, not from the floor, not from the door, from the wall beside me. I go at shoulder height, close enough that I felt it in my ribs. 3 knocks. Slow, patient. I turned the flashlight. The beam hit blank plaster. "That's new," I said. The voice didn't answer immediately. When it did, it sounded thinner. "They are listening now." "What do you mean, they?" Silence. Then the voice continued. "You just lose the last thread. You become the knock without the meaning. You become the sound without the sentence. And you knock and you knock and you knock and you don't remember why." I sat in the dark church with my flashlight in my lap, and I listened to a dead man explain his afterlife, and what I felt was not horror. What I felt was grief. An enormous, tidal grief that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with the bare fact that suffering does not require a body. "Caleb," Jonah said. "Yeah. I can see something." "What?" "Light. Very faint. Not the flashlight. That still isn't reaching in here. Something else. Like bioluminescence, like the walls are starting to glow." "Don't touch anything." "I'm not. But I can see the edges of the room now, and you were right. It's small. It's just a storage room. Shelves, boxes, a mop bucket. It's a normal room, but the floor is wrong. The center of the floor is gone. It's just a hole, like someone cut a perfect circle out of the floorboards, and the light is coming from down there. Stay away from the hole. I know, but Caleb, I can feel the edge now, with my feet. The floor is solid near the door. It's only the center that's gone. I think I can walk along the wall to the doorway." "Kenny?" I asked the voice. "Can he walk out?" Silence. A long one. Then, "If I release the tension, yes. The floor near the walls will hold. The center is mine. Has been mine. My grip on the surface. If I let go, the floor becomes a floor again, and the hole closes and he walks out." "And you?" "I fall." "Into what?" "Into the knock." 3 knocks came from beneath my feet, faint, almost gentle. The building's heartbeat. Headlights swept across the curtained windows. The truck. The air shifted. I don't mean temperature, I mean direction. Like the room had developed a current, a slow pull toward the open doorway. My sleeve moved first, then the edge of a loose paper near the lectern, then the beam of the flashlight bent. Just slightly, but enough. Enough to prove that whatever waited in that room was not just below us anymore. It was learning the shape of here. Anna was back. I heard the truck door slam. I heard her footsteps on the porch. She came through the front door, breathing hard, her eyes wild with something that wasn't fear. It was information. She had come back with ammunition. "The woman told me everything," she said, sitting down next to me. She spoke quickly and precisely, the way she did when she was working through a problem. "The church was built in 1952 by a man named Harold Greaves. He was a preacher, not ordained, self-appointed. He built the church with his own hands. He poured the foundation himself. He dug the crawl space himself, and according to the woman, he dug too deep. He found a cavity, a natural void in the limestone under the property, a sinkhole that hadn't collapsed yet, and instead of filling it, he built over it. He said it was a sign from God. He said the void was a passage. A passage to what? He never said, but he built the back room directly over the cavity, and he installed a trapdoor in the floor, and he used to go down there, alone, at night, for hours. The congregation thought he was communing with God. Some of them tried to follow, most came back. A few didn't. The tally marks? The tally marks. Each one is a night someone went down. The woman's mother was in the congregation. She kept count. She stopped counting after 300. What happened to Greaves? He went down in 2014 and didn't come back. They waited 3 days. Then they sealed the trap door and closed the church. No one's been inside since. Until us. Until us. And here's the thing, Caleb. The woman told me something else. She said that before Greaves disappeared, he told her mother that the void wasn't empty. He said there were people down there. People who had fallen through cracks in other places. People who were trapped between the surface and something deeper. And he said that the only way to help them was to keep the passage open, to keep visiting, to keep talking to them, because the sound of a human voice was the only thing that kept them from losing themselves completely. I looked at the open door at the back of the nave. The dark inside it was faintly lighter now, or maybe my eyes had adjusted. I could see the edge of a shelf, the corner of a box. He wasn't feeding them to it, Anna said. He was visiting them. He was keeping them alive. And when he stopped coming, they started to fade. And the last one, the one who can still talk, has been knocking for 12 years because that's all he has left. From the dark room, from the deep. Her mother. She used to bring soup. I could smell it through the floor. Anna closed her eyes. We stood at the doorway. Anna, me, and the dark. Jonah was inside, pressed against the wall near the door. I could see him now. Barely. In the faint luminescence that rose from the hole in the floor like light from a well. His face was pale. His eyes were open and alert. Here's what I understand, I said, talking to everyone and everything in the room. You're holding the floor. That's what's keeping you coherent. If you let go, Jonah can walk out, but you fall into the deep and you lose yourself. If you hold on, Jonah's stuck. If we close the door, you lose everything. The voice, the ability to knock, the last thread. That is correct, the voice said. What if we keep the door open? Permanently? What if we come back? What if we do what Greaves did? Anna looked at me. Caleb. Not every night. Not like that. But regularly. Enough to keep the thread. You would do that? The voice asked. I'm asking if it would work. It worked before, for decades. A voice through the floor. A knock returned. It doesn't take much. Just proof that someone is listening. Jonah spoke. He sounded tired but clear. Let me propose something. You let go of the floor, just for a moment, long enough for me to step out. Then you grab hold again. Like releasing a grip and re-gripping. Is that possible? Silence. A very long silence. I don't know, the voice said. I have been holding for so long that I don't know if my hands will close again once they open. Then we make it quick, Jonah said. I'm 2 steps from the door. You let go, I step out, you grab hold. 2 seconds. And if I can't? Jonah looked at me through the doorway. He looked at Anna. Then he looked down at the faintly glowing hole in the floor, and he spoke to whatever was below. Then we come back. I promise you. We come back and we knock and we talk and we don't let you disappear. You can't promise that. I just did. 3 knocks from the deep, not from the floor, from somewhere far below. 3 knocks that traveled upward through stone and earth and wood and air and reached us like the last pulse of a dying signal. Are you ready? The voice asked. Jonah braced himself against the wall. His feet were on the narrow strip of solid floor between the wall and the hole. The doorway was 2 steps to his left. I was on the other side, leaning in, my hand extended. Anna was behind me with her hands on my shoulders, anchoring me. Ready, Jonah said. When I let go, the deep will pull. The room will change, move fast. I will. And come back. I will. A sound, not a knock, a release, like the last note of a held chord, like a breath that someone had been holding for years finally leaving the body. The floor shuddered. The faint light from the hole flared, bright, blue-white, cold. And for a fraction of a second, I saw the room as it truly was. A small storage space with wooden shelves and cardboard boxes and a mop in the corner, and in the center of the floor, a hole the size of a manhole cover, perfectly round, perfectly black. And from that hole came a light that was not a light, but the absence of dark, the negative of shadow. The thing that darkness looks like when it's been compressed past its breaking point. Jonah moved. He pushed off the wall with both hands and lunged for the doorway, and I grabbed his arm and pulled, and Anna pulled me, and we went backward into the nave in a tangle of limbs and momentum and hit the floor hard. Behind us, in the storage room, something screamed. Not a human scream, not an animal scream, a structural scream. The sound of wood splitting and stone grinding and air being sucked into a space that shouldn't exist. The glow from the room flared once more, brilliant and terrible, and then it was gone. The door swung shut on its own. The latch caught. The sound was small and final and absolute. We lay on the floor of the nave, the 3 of us breathing. Jonah was on his back beside me. Anna was half on top of us both. The fluorescent light above us flickered on, by itself, without anyone touching the switch, and filled the room with its flat, clinical glow. The church was a church again, just a room, Just pews and a lectern and a closed door. I stood up. I helped Anna up. We helped Jonah up. He was shaking but intact. "Is it?" Anna started. I went to the back door. I put my ear against the wood. Nothing. No breathing, no voice, no knock. I knocked 3 times. Slowly, deliberately. I waited. Nothing came back. We drove home that morning. Both cars. Anna and I in ours. Jonah following in the borrowed truck, which we returned to the motel with a full tank and a $50 bill on the dash. The woman at the front desk was sitting outside room 1 in a plastic chair, drinking coffee. When we pulled in, she looked at Jonah for a long time. And then she looked at me. "You got him out," she said. "Yeah." "And the other one?" I didn't answer right away. I thought about the scream, the structural scream, the sound of something losing its grip. "I don't know," I said. She nodded. She sipped her coffee. She looked at the sky, which was clean and blue and rinsed, the way the sky only looks after a bad storm. "Harold used to say they come back," she said. "He said the deep doesn't let go, it just repositions. Finds a new crack, a new building, a new floor to knock through." I thought about this all the way home. I thought about it while Jonah slept in the back seat and Anna held my hand across the center console and the highway unrolled in front of us like a promise. I thought about the cracks, the voids, the spaces under buildings where awareness can get trapped. I thought about a man who dug too deep and found something that was full of listening. We got home at 2 p.m. Jonah went to his room, our spare room, and closed the door. Anna made tea. I sat at the kitchen table and looked at my hands. That evening, I went to the hardware store and bought a stud finder, a good one, the kind that can detect voids behind walls and under floors. I brought it home and I walked the apartment, every room, every wall, every floor. I found nothing, just studs and pipes and the normal, expected hollows of residential construction. But when I ran the stud finder along the floor of the spare bedroom, Jonah's room, it chirped once, briefly, at a frequency I hadn't heard it produce before. Not a stud, not a pipe, not a void exactly. A density, something directly beneath the floorboards that the device couldn't categorize. I stood there, in Jonah's doorway, holding the stud finder, staring at the floor. From downstairs, from the apartment below ours, where the Hendersons lived with their 2 cats and their collection of vintage records, I heard something faint, regular. 3 impacts, evenly spaced, at a conversational volume. Knock, knock, knock. I put the stud finder down. I sat on the edge of Jonah's bed. I listened. The knocking did not come again, but I sat there for a long time, waiting. And eventually, without deciding to, I raised my fist. I held it above the floor, and I knocked back 3 times. And from somewhere below, not the apartment, not the building's foundation, but somewhere deeper, somewhere that had nothing to do with architecture and everything to do with the spaces between things, something knocked in return. I sat with it. I didn't run. I didn't call Anna. I didn't panic. I knocked again, 3 times, careful, measured, certain. It answered immediately. And this time, it sounded closer. And this time, I knew exactly where it was. And that was how it began. The visits. The long, patient, impossible practice of keeping a threat alive. Not because I understood it. Not because I knew what lived in the deep. But because something was down there, alone, aware, and asking the only question it had left. Are you there? 3 knocks. I am here.